Hey guys, BBI here. I want to stop and say thanks for tuning in and checking out whatever the video is about that's about ready to come up next. If you could take a minute and hit subscribe, I'd greatly appreciate it. And if you enjoy what you've seen here, make sure to hit the like button. We'd greatly appreciate your support. Anyhow, guys, all that aside, let's get on with the show. It's just another day, another nightmare, another death trap. Oh, this is not my normal modus operandi that I like to do, you guys. So we're going to proceed forward with this. But listen to me when I tell you this. This will be the only one of these shit buckets I ever work on. Period. What we have here is death wrapped inside more death, surrounded by dangerous. This is an sb220 that has been modified. Now, everybody and their brother used to have one of these back in the day. You know, Kevin knew John, John knew Kevin. Kevin had a friend that had one of these that his buddy down the street put together. And what they do here is they rip all the guts out of this thing. They smash it, everything as far forward as they can, and they throw another tube in there. Now, Kevin and John watched Mark down the street do one of these once, and they said they'd try to do it themselves. Well, John down the street ran his for about 2 weeks, and the thing blew up. And they figured out that the plate transformer went bad. Why'd the plate transformer go bad, you say? Because it's only good for an amp. What do both tubes pull when they're fully maxed out? 1 amp. So if you add a third amp or a third tube to it, you're now going to pull an amp and a half. Oh. Goddamn phone. Hold on, guys. I got to take this. That was the owner of the amp. He was wanting to know if we found both parts. I'll get you there. Don't worry. We'll get there. So, we figure out that technically we have enough room inside the amp tag. And they work out the fact that you can stretch the capacitors out a little bit. So, you know, they kept having problems like, let's see if I can move this thing. The case is so chopped up, this thing's like just tinfoil. Very, very flexible. Okay. They start having problems as they're going. Like our glitch resistor starts going, and our metering circuit resistor starts going, and the power supply protection circuit it all starts going. And so, in old school fashion, the theory is bigger is better, so we're going to put bigger resistors and everything, and it'll hold together. In the process, they've blown out this plate choke, this plate choke. This has all been hand rewound. This thing needs a bath, a vacuum, a douche, a polish, a hand job from a T01 and hooker. It needs to be put up slowly and then put out to pasture. Let's take a look for at the bottom side. It's a bunch of more scariness. So, the other thing you got to think about is our filament transformer is now pulling double or a third more current. So we start having heating issues here. This used to attach to that. This all's been on fire. This all been up. This all been up. This has been on fire at some point. This is all wrong kind of coax. and melted. This is braided. This is coax shield. They did get the mono band portion of it right, and it's got a variable capacitor in the band switch position. So we'll see if we can get that to work, but there's no inductor coil. Zero inductor coil. How did I get talked into this? How? It's gonna take days to do. Our pop-out breakers have been replaced with regular fuses. It's just so rough. It's so rough. So we're going to take mental note of the 600 volt wire. Hey, we should be grateful it's oil resistant. It says so right there, oil resistant. It also says right here 600 volt wire. This is important. This is really important. So there are parts of this wire that are on the top side of this thing that are here by the internal plate transformer, that are here, that we are going to conduct through the wrong kind of connector on the back, 1900 volts worth of jizz. 2 to 3 times this rated value. That all has to be replaced. Tank coil, I'm sure they spent a lot of time playing with this. Now, believe me, that this guy, I called him today, and I said, "Bud, I don't want to work on this thing. It scares me. It makes me want to go hide underneath my bed." And he says, "Well, give me a prize." I gave him a prize. I went, "Okay." He goes, "We'll fix it." All right. So now, you remember the whole conversation that we just had about how the plate transformer wasn't big enough? They figured this out because they watched the guy down the street. Oh, it gets better. Oh, this just keeps getting better. There's our second power supply. Oh my Christ. So the way this is set up to be, and this is genius as far as redneck engineering goes. You gotta love it, man. This is creative. I went out there and asked her, "Buddy, hey man, you got another extra sb220 power supply?" "Yeah, man. I might have me one of them." This plugs in just like that. I know this because the indicating arrow says plug it in like so. I can't make this up. But it's brilliant. This is a brilliant workaround. Where they're paralleling the transformers is technically electrically correct. It looks like ass, but it's correct. So I can't say anything negative because it's electrically correct, other than it just looks horrid. So the big $64 million question is if this guy's going to let me put this in an exterior box, metal, with the appropriate voltage connectors. I think I would just settle if we could use the appropriate voltage wire here, because we know that this is up to the snuff. this old asbestos covered wire. We know this will carry the voltage. The connector is a little questionable, but this 600 volt wire that we've got coming off of it on the other side, we definitely have to replace, for sure. Well, this is the business card to which I filled out. Let us begin. The more I stand here and look at this, the more I realize this is creative engineering at its finest, and I'm absolutely freaking in shock. Like, I was just standing here going, I wonder what these bolts are for. And then it dawns on me that the plate transformer, the auxiliary plate transformer, bolts on the back here. So this is one homogeneous unit. If I put some nylon spower wrap around this, I feel fine with this. I was kind of freaked out about that for a minute. Now there's a lot of shit in here that's just straight up bad. But there's a lot of shit in here that is straight up good. So we're going to go through this and we're going to get rid of the bad. We're going to emphasize the good, and we're going to focus just on the good. So right now what I'm thinking about doing is there's all this metal and solder and gobbledygook that's down in here. So I'm going to take my little Ryobi. Pretend we're listening to the song that was written by Peaches. It's called F the Pain Away. It's a crazy, stupid, retarded song, but we're going to see if we can vac the paint away out of the inside of this thing, and then we're going to get inside, we're going to clean this. Let's see if we can build him something really pretty out of the inside of this. I just don't want to be negative about it. Like, here, we'll talk about this cap here, just this cap here for a minute. That cap, somebody took the time and disassembled this and changed the spacing on this capacitor alone. How much time is that? I mean, really. Ah! I dropped my other cleaner that I need. I mean, there is some interesting engineering in here, I have to admit. So now we're taking an ammonia-based cleaner, a non-ammonia-based cleaner, and now we're going to add a soap to the equation. I mean, if it's going to be the dirtiest girl at the ball, might as well try and clean it a little bit. A lot of what we're working on here is cigarette residue. And now I understand why he sent it up here for me to do the work on it. This is kind of scary, but I feel that if we clean some of this up, we can make it totally safe. Now, we're going to let this soak over here. With the nattiest, nastiest, oldest paintbrush I can find here. Will this help this produce 1 more watt in output power? Abso-freaking-lutely not. Do I gotta clean it so it's up to my standard? I abso-freaking-lutely do. That was hard. Now, as you can see, I took out our blocker. Oh, look at that. Took out our blocker. I'm going to go in here, I'll remove the remnants of the band switch, which was just, they broke it off. Our blocker is like the consistency of soft gum, which we all know. Whoever watches my videos, they know that I give them a little squeeze test. Yeah. Okay. There's a lot of guys that are going to watch this video and they're going to go right down memory lane to like, oh man, we used to do that all the time. I'm here to tell you guys, the sb220 hasn't always been the most, I don't know, venerable thing that has ever been out there. A lot of guys for a lot of decades didn't think that highly of them and they treated them accordingly, so a lot of them got butchered like this. It hasn't been until recently that there's been some kind of resurgence on these things. It's like when people ask me, well, what do you get for one of those? I'm like, well, tested or untested? At the end of the day, it's the cheaper end of good as far as a multi-band 3500Z amp goes. And since there's not a lot of companies still producing these that are type accepted, they've all of a sudden become valuable again. Some of these projects that I get are just horrific. It's just like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I sit myself down and I go, wait a minute. This is what you do, man. They can't all be like, I mean, let's face it, I have taken some of the nastiest, rottenest pill amplifiers and turned them into absolute works of art. And that's why I get to be here. So I can take 5 minutes and thoroughly clean things and fix what needs to be fixed and then disregard what I don't need to pay attention to. Like, we all know where this is going to go. And we all know how this is going to get used. Okay? We all understand that. Least I can do is take 10 minutes and try to make it the best I can while it's here. At the end of the day, power go in, more power come out. Now I just knew that underneath all this filth was some stuff that just needed a little bit of love, and it would look like new again. So, not gonna lie, you guys, I got on the phone with my brother and I just started talking, because I don't get to talk with him very often. And the next thing I know, I had the faceplate off, the cap and the high volt board out, which we're going to change a bunch of stuff on this. So I have to determine how much of this is really worth salvaging. We'll come back around to this whole mess here in a minute. But I got to cleaning and getting schmoo off of stuff. Got the whole front side of this all cleaned out, all up in here. Got all the capacitors cleaned out and re-oiled, so they'll last another little while. Just think this was somewhat new when we started. It's gross now, right? That all came out of here. Got the transformers all washed up, the plates all washed up. The bottom plate on this thing is bent. The standard, it wasn't packaged very well, so therefore transformer makes it have a freaking hernia out the side. So I'll get this straightened out here pretty quick. We'll knock this back over straight here in a minute, and they'll go along, make sure all the bolts are tight. It really isn't that bad. It was just so dirty. Now the bottom side, that's rough, but the top side of this, I can make this work. I also went in here and I repaired all this shit that's in here. Now there's supposed to be, tricky bastards, look at that. Look at that. This disc capacitor here, it's a 103, goes around, and we need to attach this to here so we can make our grid meter work. Not gonna bother with that. We got high voltage and we got a plate amp meter. That's all that matters for this particular setup. So the faceplate has seen better days. The high voltage relative power grid meter, a little bit waning. I have not checked the meter movements yet. Let's do that real quick together. Man, I'm glad my brother called me. I was having a rough afternoon, just getting so freaking, oh. Okay. Huh. That meter's working. So we got high volt. Nah. This thing's done. Not that you and I both know that this meter has spent its entire life in the corner as long as it's had this 3-tube configuration. So I know we were asking for a lot from you to work, but it doesn't hurt to check. Oh, burnt as frig. And burnt as frig. Okay. Well, we'll go over here. We're going to get out our new little box. This little box that we got gifted to us here from, let's give credit where credit's due here. Mr. Cullum, Cullum. I used to have a boss by the same last name, different person, not related, I guarantee it. Thanks, Mr. Cullum. I appreciate this. I'm going to put these meters to good use, as you're going to see, and I'm going to give you thanks in every video. Okay, let's see. I need 47s, I do believe. He sent me a big box of replacement. New old stock from back in the day. These are made by GE. Remember their logo? GE, we bring good things to life. Oh. So the other thing that I figured out is on some, but not all, but some of these units, the high voltage boot, this jacket, this rubber jacket, starts to gel and it'll sink down into that wire. Doesn't do it on all of them, but on this particular unit it is doing it. So now, without nicking the asbestos lined wire, even though some people say that this is cotton, I'd like to believe that, but it sure looks like that asbestos wire that was in my grandma's attic back when I was a kid. Stuff just gets hard, and then it gets sticky. And I spent like 5 minutes cleaning the stick off of this thing. So let's go ahead and take care of this. This is Flex Light. We'll replace that with its modern equivalent here in a minute. This is exposed to the outside universe. Look at this. This here has been exposed to the outside universe, and this is what was inside that boot. Amazing. I'll get this all cleaned up. I'm going to move this out of the way because we're about as far along as I need to be here for a little bit. And let's go look at the high volt board here in a few minutes. So slide this up out of the way and go look at the capacitor bank and high voltage board trouble now. I'm here to tell you what. So I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, I'm like, I'm just going to let my mind go that we're going to share transformers. We're going to sum them at the capacitor bank and the diode board, not post-rectification, which is the way you normally do it. But there's no problem with summing it at the transformer, at the rectifier source, as long as they're the exact same transformer, and you understand that the transformer that is farthest from the load, the one that's going to bolt on the back, this transformer is going to see the most punishment. It's going to give till it's got nothing more to give. Then it's going to pull from over here. We're going to abandon that portion of my brain, and I'm letting that go. And we're going to ignore the fact that the filament transformer technically isn't big enough to do this job, technically. And we're also going to ignore the fact that there's no guarantee that when I turn all this horse poop back on that this is any good or this is any good, because I didn't bother to test any of that before I tore it all apart. Now technically, if I took this lead and hung it up here in space and this lead, and I hung it up here in space, and I kind of moved all the other wires away from each other. I could probably run these, and I most likely will before we go and jump down the rabbit hole too far. But my problem that I'm currently having is, well, and I got the bunk ass garbage 3500Z here. If I'm gonna go through all this horse shit to do this, why don't we take and we move some stuff? Like, move our plate choke, move our bypass cap. I gotta take all this garbage out of down in here anyhow, the safety and then what's left of the band switch, and it's like I gotta re-glue that back on anyhow. This is the backer for our capacitance bank. You guys are going to take all these screws out anyhow. Why don't I just make this a little bit better? So I started thinking how I could make this a little bit better while I'm in here. You guys know me, I had thoughts. I know I should not, but I did. One of the things is I want to get rid of this. I want to trim this away, nibble this away, and make this all nice and flush. I want to move this and put this down here in the middle of all three of the tubes. I know it's going to get hot as frick, but it doesn't matter. It's mag wire, porcelain, aluminum, and metal. It's not going to hurt it any by sitting it down here. And that'll put our bypass cap out here someplace. I could run high voltage lead down here and along the edge of the cabinet, and then over to the bypass cap, then up to the plate choke. That'd help get rid of a lot of the inductor length that this thing was creating. I mean, the parasitics are technically right, but this whole mess, this is horse crap. I can't. You guys know me, I can't do that. Create him a new tank coil. Something that wasn't. I mean, this is like somebody took a file to the inside of it. Can't have any sharp edges on this, you guys. None. It's way bad. But then we got the whole bottom side to take on too. I don't know. Creative juices are flowing. Let's see what I cook up. Let's see what we cook up. What? Come on, man. You're yellow jacket, brother. So you're telling me straight up. You're telling me straight up that the little filament transformer in here will easily hold 3 tubes, right?
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
It ain't designed for 3, but it'll hold 3.
How many do you think you've done in your lifetime? Just guessing. Just guessing.
Oh, shoot, probably about 20 of them.
Okay.
If not more. I'm talking about cutting them out. I told you I put 6 tubes in these kids.
Oh, man. I love you, brother. Appreciate your the knowledge, and I appreciate you sharing it with me. I'm going to let you go. I just wanted to have you pop up on video real quick. Say hi to everybody in video land. No, you ain't backing up. We're on the phone with Yellow Jacket, the man, the myth, the legend, the 3500Z god from California back in the day.
Yeah,
all right, my brother.
If you put that on there, they ain't gonna be happy because they're gonna say, "Oh, you can't do that. You don't know what he's talking about," because everybody's going by paper specs. But I'm telling you, it'll work.
Right, and I'll believe in that knowledge, taking into account what we're working on here.
Yeah, but they actually draw 15 ounce a piece, so.
Right.
And it's a 30 amp filament, but I never had one to run hot.
Right, and see, that's the thing I wanted. This is obviously built and was running before it came here at some point or another, but I mean, it's just kind of hillbilly slapped together. So I'm sitting here trying to clean it up and make it so it'll run again. And the transformer was obviously holding 3 tubes, but what I needed to do was have somebody else say to me, "Hey man, it's okay, it'll hold it."
Yeah.
Because I know on paper, in theory, there's going to be some guy out there that's going to roll over, have a little heart attack, because on paper, oh, we're stressing the filament transformer. No, I needed somebody to come along and say, "Hey bro, it's going to be fine, don't worry about it."
Yep, I've even ran 2 of those 30 amp filaments, Heathkit filaments, parallel with 6 tubes, and with no problem.
Wow. They must have made it out of special kind of asbestos that day.
I don't know, but I seen a guy running a 6 tube heat kit at 10 grand in Louisiana.
What do you have on it for plate?
Oh, he had the. Oh, I didn't see his plate transfer. I was just looking at the head. You know, the stock transformer heat kit don't put out a lot of volts. I think it's like 2,400 volts.
Yeah. It uses a doubler. Yeah, it uses a doubler.
Yeah, on a doubler. And on the low side, it's like 1,800 or something like that. So.
I don't know why people are afraid of voltage doublers. I know they sag quite a bit, but as long as you got enough plate amperage to hold it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with the voltage doubler. It is going to sag a little, but if you got enough a good capacitor bank up there, it'll hold it up.
Yeah.
You know, I think the heat kit is 450 volts at 100.
What was that multi-tube unit that 250 had? Doc Adams and him told me the story about it twice, and I can never remember. What was the name of that amp? We never seen it again. He loaded it in the back of the Cadillac, and it disappeared out of the corner. What? You know what? You know exactly which one I'm talking about, too.
I wasn't up here when 250 left.
It had like 10 tubes in it.
Oh, it had 10 tubes in it?
Yeah, I think it used to be owned by Mr. USA or something, and somehow it ended up with the Wayne, and then a guy bought it and went back east. It was all black, and it had 2 rows of 5 in the bag. 4 fans across the back of it.
Was it a Z-Box?
Yeah.
I don't know. I probably built that, man. I built so many of those. I built them with 13 tubes in them.
What's the biggest one you've ever seen?
Well, that's the one I built was 13. You really can't go. A guy told me I couldn't do 30. A guy told me I couldn't even do 10 because he said you won't get a wrap on the tank coil. Because every time you had the tube be taking away impedance.
Right.
So I got swore up and down. You can't run 10 of them. I said, I bet you I can. And then, you know, I got to talking with Hendry because I used to hang out at Hendry. That's where I met Charlie at when I introduced him to Prime. I met Hendry. Charlie was the chief engineer there. And that's how I found out, hey, you know, how to get some wraps on the tank coil.
Let's stop there. Let's stop there. Remember, we're talking in a public venue, so let's just stop there on that topic. I know I want to pursue that. We've talked about that before, but anyhow, say hi to the gentleman in YouTube land. Say hello, Jagged.
Who was that?
Just say hello, Jagged. Tell the boys hello.
Hello, Jagged. Hello.
All right, let me cut this. Let me cut this mess off. Hold on a second. That was my great teacher, Yellow Jacket, teacher number 2. I don't think he realized he was on video. He'll probably get mad at me for it later. It's all right. He's starting to drop names and stuff, and I was like, oh, whoa. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to rebuild this. This is the doubler board. This is no good. This is the one that come out. So we can see it's kind of needs to go in a bucket. Everything on here's gotten super hot. It's been burnt up a bunch. It's starting to come apart. So we're going to take this one that is minty mint. We're going to up modify it so it can hold the load. And we're going to drop it back on. This capacitor bank that was in there is visibly leaking. We're going to replace it with this NOS one that I got here. We're going to drop it in its place. That'll get us running. I hope. We'll see. So that's the beauty of having these guys that recognize the drive and the love I've got for what I'm doing. One, they do me the honor and the respect of when I call them, they answer. 2, when I ask them questions, they give me honest answers. And 3, I love getting them on video and camera talking about the past. I mean, can you imagine that? 13 500Zs. I mean, you can do it easier with different tubes, but I mean, this is, you got to remember that was back when, you know, the ceramic steel tube thing wasn't even a deal yet. That wasn't even, I mean, it was happening, but it hadn't kind of really worked its way down to our world yet. You know what I mean? The CB ham community yet. So I just love it, man. Every time I put a challenge out there, because of this channel, it allows me access to a whole bunch of people that I would never be able to have access to. Like, here's a good one. I said that I was desperately looking for a 3500Z Heath kit, new in the box that I could assemble. Found 2. Just because of the channel and everybody watching. So, here in the near future, we're going to have one as a kit show up here completed. Or I mean, show up as a completed kit. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to assemble the thing. And then we're going to sell it. So somebody out there is going to get themselves a brand new sb220. And I'm kind of interested to see what that's going to fetch. But see, once again, all I did was go to the radio world through the YouTube channel and say, hey, this is something I want to do. Does anybody out there want to help me do it? And you guys never fail. You never let me down. I love that. I love that. So we're going to desolder all of these little tiny diodes off here. And we're going to kill it with love, is what we're going to do. Now, my phone call with Jacket made me think of something else.
Hello, Swing.
What are you doing, 250? It's BBI.
Hey, man. Doing good. How about you?
Sitting over here working on a multi-tube sb220.
Oh, nice.
Little 3-tuber. So you're going to be on the YouTube video, buddy. I hope you're okay with that.
Uh-oh, what happened?
Well, I was on the phone with Jacket. Because, you know, I ain't done a whole lot of these outside of the 2-tube realm, right? So I figured I'd call the King Almighty 3500Z guy himself.
Yeah.
And he says, no, don't worry about it. The filament transformer, you be fine, young man. You do what you do. And then that made me think about you, because your big damn 3500Z box you had. And for the life of me, I could not remember the name of that thing.
Leroy. Big Mouth Leroy.
Leroy, huh? Who built Leroy?
Dr. J, California.
That's what I thought. I couldn't remember if it was Dr. J or Mr. USA, but Dr. J built that.
Dr. J is who I knew him by, so I don't know.
When did you when did you come into that? When did you get that?
Oh, shit. I bought it probably, oh, man. Probably 15 years ago.
When did you let it go?
And I sold it to a guy. I sold it to a guy that ran a nightclub in Cheyenne, Wyoming. He sold it to somebody on the East Coast. The guy on the East Coast sold it, and the guy that just bought it put a picture of it on the internet. I think it was on CB Show and Tell, but that amp has been floating around now, and now it's got 3 6000s in it.
How many tubes did it have in it when you had it? I don't remember. I seen the video. I don't remember how many was in there. 9?
It had 9 tubes, and it would run on 1 or it would run on 9. It didn't make much difference.
Jacket was telling me about his 13 tuber he built.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Back in the day, man, him and Prime and Jay, man, those guys were freaking cramming as many tubes in there as they could possibly get.
Yeah.
I ran the Dyno and did about $5,000. We do about 10 or so. Just freaking cruising.
How many of them 3500Zs do you have on the shelf in that video? I think there was at least 30 on the shelf.
What's that now?
In the video that I've got of you, when you were talking on that thing, how many 3500Zs did you just have sitting there chilling on the shelf?
Oh, I didn't have hardly any. Like I said, I said maybe a few here and there, but
Dwayne.
you know, when I first got it, I had a problem with the thing melting the pins on the tube. After it was all over with, I sparked up a little bit and put some fans underneath to cool those sockets. And I'm here to tell you that was the end of the fooling around. It was bulletproof.
I just remember seeing that video, and I swear to God, you had like 20 of the 3500Zs sitting on the shelf.
No, that wasn't me.
And you know I got the video. You know I've got the video. You know I've got it over in a confuser. I've sampled it before.
Is that a video that I made with 9 boxes?
Yeah.
Mobile too?
Yeah. I kept a copy of that for myself, Duck Plucker. I did.
All right.
And then I converted it to digital, and it's in the computer. I could actually go and... I should... You know what? I think I uploaded that to YouTube. I should send you the private link of that.
But, you know, it works real good. I've narrowed it down. Got just what I need to take care of business. And I'll walk you through the system real quick. 30-30's kind of panning around the whole situation here.
I'm saving the surprise.
Gonna start right up here on top. What I've done up here is converted this Cobra 25 to a receiver. This receiver keys and unkeys when I key my transmitter. So what I'm doing is I'm using this CB to listen with, and I'm using this transmitter here to transmit with. My transmitter keys at 50 watts. I'm keying this 50 watts into this 2 kW linear down here below, which gives me a 500 watt key. When I key on this 500 watt amplifier, and I step on this second pedal, I key this big guy over here, and that gives me a 5,000 watt key. Runs almost identical on the bird meters as what my Mobile does, imagine that. The only difference is that 40-foot long antenna up there on that tower. And boy, what a difference it makes. Alrighty, 534, I'm going to let 30-30 come up here on the top. Kind of look through the top up here if you can.
Leroy.
Get a picture of these tubes in there.
All the glow.
There's 9 of those big old fat-legged girls. When I say fat-legged girls, this is what I mean by fat-legged girls. There's 9 of these 3-500Zs in there. This is an extra. Each one of these tubes is rated at 1,000 watts. That thing keys about $5,000 and swings to about 10, give or take a little bit. I've never had a peak reading set of birds on there yet, but it does the business. Thing about these glass tube boxes, they're kind of old and they're relics, but they work good and they sound good.
Looks like Christmas, Mr. 250.
The 3-500Zs tend to run a little bit hot, so I don't have the key down time that everybody else does, but then again too, if I keyed down like the rest of them, my neighbors would already ram me out of here. There it is, 534, that's my big boy. That's what I talk on. This is what they call Big Mouth Leroy. If you ever hear anybody talk about Big Mouth Leroy, now you've met him. This box was custom made for me by Dr. J in California, and just a heck of a nice guy down there. He's a James boy. Dr. J in Cali built this box for me. Went down and got it from myself. Anyway, man, if you look up here on the top, you can see the sb220. That's the watt meter for my driver. Same thing as what's in the Suburban, 1,000 watt slug. This is a watt meter for Leroy. If you look, the line sections have been taken out of them. There's a remote cable running back down to the back of the amplifier. The exact same thing you're going to do in your Suburban. Everything's the same. The mobile and the base station, I can interchange my meter. Extra slugs, there's a 25 watt slug right there.
You can turn that each way, right?
I use the 25 watt slug for checking my reflex. The same thing you're going to do in your mobile. That's where we're at. See where I'm sitting right here on the direction finder on my beam antenna? I'm pointed over toward the east coast. Everything in here is good and warm right now.
I can feel it.
We're ready to do a little bit of DX in here, my friend. Now, the unfortunate part is my neighbors are watching football right now. So 534.
Screw the neighbors.
I'm not going to stay out here long, but we'll key this bad boy once or twice and let you see what's going on here from Spokane. Just a second here, my friend.
That's fine. You can pass that out. I don't give a shit, man.
No, I don't. I'm not that. I don't play like that. You know me better than that. I don't play like that.
Yeah. Oh, there's some knowledge there. If somebody wants it, pass it out. I don't care.
There's a lot of knowledge there. That's how I figured out how to set up my first mobile, was based off that video. We tweaked it a little bit, like adding big old flat ground strap to help with the grounds, but yeah. You doing okay?
Yeah, man. Everything's good. Lost my sister, lost my mom, and lost an uncle here this last year. It's been a little rough. Other than that, life's good.
Did you get the transmitter squared out?
Yep.
Good.
Yeah, everything's running sweet, man.
Good. Well, say hi to the boys for me on 80 meters.
I went back up and got 709 stroking again with the 3000, so hopefully he'll be making a little bit more noise.
Would love to hear him.
He gets out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was up there the day, got that running for him again, and got a chance to throw down and talk to CC and the gang down south. It was great. Just like old home.
So I guess CC's moving. He's leaving Cali. But I can't say where. I'm sworn to secrecy.
I don't.
Yeah.
All I know is it was fun to hear him again after all those years.
Yeah.
And the mist came down on the pool, but I don't miss the headaches with all the neighbors and everything else going on.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, buddy, it sounds like you're busy. I don't want to keep you if you're busy.
Actually, I'm eating a really wonderful freaking shrimp and green bean dish that Gracie made here. It's all good. No problem.
Well, go eat your dinner. I'm going to get back to finishing this box. I just wanted to grab you up real quick. I appreciate you picking up.
Oh, shit. No problem, man. Good to talk to you. And thanks for sharing all your videos. I enjoy watching them.
Well, make sure to check out this next one, the 3-tube Heathkit 3500Z thingy. You're going to be in it, so.
Yeah, cool. Well, I got to tell you, man, Jacket Prime, back in the day, those guys were freaking animals. And when Prime found out that I was running a 9-tube Z-Box, he was after my ass from that point on. But, for the longest time, I could hold off him and Doc with that Z-Box, man. I could hold him off real good until Doc finally broke down and bought a real beam. He bought a real beam. It was over at that point.
Yeah.
They were having their way with me, but for the longest time, I was doing pretty good up there.
What was Jacket was telling me about the Z-Box that he built for Doc. Speaking of Doc, how many tubes was in that one?
I think it was like 7. I don't remember for sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
I swear to God, I was born too late, Dwayne. I swear to God. I mean, dude, it is a whisper of what it was back in the 90s and the 80s,
Yeah. Well, it was a golden age of radio back then, and those guys were innovators in the big watts department, man.
Yeah.
I tell you, I don't know. I mean, my Z-Box did more watts, and it was funner to operate. But ever since I switched to 3000, it was just turn it on and go. No worries, no nothing.
Imagine how I feel when I turn on that 40 and go.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I come in there about 10 to 15,000. I just let it go. Where it stops is where it's going to end, you know?
Mhm.
So, buddy, I got to run.
Okay, well, I'll be looking for your video.
Appreciate you, my friend. You be good. We'll see y'all up this next year.
All right, man. We'll be there, same place, same pace, bottom floor, right next to the garage door.
Yep, we'll be right across the street from you. One alley away. We're not there to sell anything. We're here to buy. We'll see you, bud.
All right.
Later. Bye-bye. Another good old guy. I had to let him go so I could sit here and run my drill for a minute. Kind of had to stretch out our openings here. Had to split the orifice. Yeah, see, people say things to me all the time, and I'm like, no. Like, I'm not an innovator, right? I just do me. And I could get on the phone with Jacket or Prime or, Shockwave back east. These guys are the thinkers. They're the ones that have really, well, they poured a lot of knowledge into me, right? So, and not just like, here, this is how you build an amplifier. It's like, no, man, they're like, dude, straighten up. You got great skill sets in you. Quit acting an idiot. Change how you think. And you're going to be deemed for success. The brain damage is those kind of guys. And now they pop tall when I'm around. It's great. And they give me a lot of respect. But, I mean, like, you don't get that respect overnight. You have to slowly earn it. And I'm trying to carry forward on my shoulders all the knowledge of these great innovators that have come before me and try to spit it out and share it with you guys as best as I know how. But in the same breath, I got to make it funny. So, I mean, yeah, sometimes I say some stuff that's a little bit profane, but come on. At the end of the day, it's a little bit funny, don't you think? It's just radio. It's just radio. So, I'm just out here trying to have fun and keep things going. Because I swear, I was born about 10 years too late. Or depending on how you want to look at it, I was born in just the right time. Because I caught the tail end. I wasn't the, super heavyweight champion or none of that crap. I got no belts. I ain't never going to get no belts. I ain't going to never win no awards or nothing. I missed that era. But I caught the tail end of it. Like I was around in radio, but I didn't know anybody and I hadn't done anything and still really haven't done all that much. But, like 250 there, he was living in it, Them guys, Prime, Jacket, Shock, Ghost, all them guys. Bluegills, the list of the builders go on, and if I don't mention the right builder in the right sequence, somebody's going to get a little butthurt. So I better stop while I'm ahead. But no, it's been real interesting the last couple of years to where I can call all these guys, and they're curious why I'm calling. They're curious enough that they're answering the phone. So I think it's fun. Keeps me from sitting out on the street corner selling my body. Which I don't know who would pay for this, but I'd hate to see the person that would pay for this. Whew. Damn it. Alright. Let me get this wrapped up. Don't bend that trace out of the way. Oh, perfection. We're after perfection. Not slap technician work. There we go. No, let's take a 40-year-old diode board and slam it full of way bigger diodes than what is actually needed, just so we can make it do 5 more watts. Come on, we got down. Okay. Need a screw. Some bent fingers. So what we were doing here was two things. I wanted to clean up the inside of this cabinet. It was too rough, and it had the half of this thing hanging out here in free space, just chilling out over the top of the anode. I didn't like that. It had a sharp edge on it, didn't like that. It got in the way of sticking the tube in, didn't like that. And there was no shield here. Now, we can debate till the end of time. I have just found that the RF deck really likes to be insulated from your plate transformer and your filament transformer. Okay. RF has a tendency to get on the leads for these things and make them do some really weird shit, especially the filament transformer. Now, these things have horn caps. What I mean by that is they're metally enclosed both sides, so they're pre-shielded. Okay. But I just took out the 600 volt Home Depot wire. Yeah. Where is it? Here it is. Our 600 volt focus. Our 600 volt right here. The 600 volt wire. And replaced it with 5 kVA silicone wire. Okay, this makes me feel safer about things. A lot safer about things. Then by us putting a shield here, the actual RF deck itself doesn't have a direct path, line of sight, or doesn't have the ability to interact with this plate being grounded, interact with the high volt wires and the 110-220 primary wires going out to the plate transformer. So now, what I do have to do now is going over here, is I have to hook up our auxiliary plate transformer, and I have to figure out what our color code is coming in from this plug. That way the phases of the transformer match each other. This is the one that goes to the capacitor bank, this is the one that goes to the diode board. So we have to parallel these two. Even though they're not technically paralleled because they're different spacing. But we're going to look around that. We're just going to look around that for right now. The other thing I spent a lot of time doing last night was creating this. This is a used high volt board. This is the old high volt board. Okay. They have this resistor and this resistor backwards, but it doesn't really matter. This thing has seen better days, obviously. Where this thing is virginally clean and new. And I went ahead and I put the 10 amp diodes on it, so we don't have to worry about our diode ring collapsing anymore. The only thing that we got in question is our glitch choke, or glitch resistor. And I'm going to leave that for now. We're going to try and run it. If I need to come back and change this, believe me, after my mailbag video, I think you all believe I've got those resistors in stock. So now that we've got the shield in, the high voltage wire changed. Now we're kind of on the downhill side of things over here, as far as this little portion of the section goes. We're going to put our new used capacitor bank in here that's tested, and it's not leaking. I have to clean all the burnt score off of this and clean this all up. And then I can put that housing back in. And once the housing goes back in, then we can start hooking up our high V wires. Get that all rewound, run. I'm going to replace the high voltage lead here. Pretty much anywhere there is high voltage lead, we're going to replace it, bring it a little bit more up to date. And then we can bring our attention back over here to the amp deck. We're going to move our plate choke out here someplace. That'll allow us to change our inductor length here a little bit. We're going to run high voltage down the inside, high volt lead down the inside, run it across over here to our, which will once again open up the space, make it a little bit easier to put tubes in and out, and it's going to close up our inductor length from the top of the plate choke to the tubes, which is important, very important. If we make this inductor length from the plate choke to the top of the tubes too long, we end up having parasitic issues that show up and we have oscillation issues that show up. So we're going to try and work around that. For right now, we're going to focus on this section of the deck. Okay, so our high volt cap bank is back in. Our new high volt board's back in. Now, what I did is I redid everything with high voltage silicone wire. So our new high voltage pass-through, which I am actually debating on moving it down to one of these holes down here in the bottom. Thinking real hard about that. It's in, spacers are in, cap bank's in. This is over to our capacitor bank. Let's go around the other side. So we got nylon covering everything. Got nylon going back here to the back of the deck, back here to cover up everything. Way better than what we had going on before. I use the same silicone high volt wire. That make no difference. Over here to our door, our zener for our bias. This is an unknown to me, so we're going to try running it. Part number is really close. I looked up the part number versus the stock number. Took a quick look at it. I think this will hold. So this isn't needed to be high volt wire. It's here, crosses over our high volt wire, so I thought I'd be safe. Hooked up our center tap off our filament transformer. That's all good. Then I came over here, just lifted up part of my floor. Foot of the tripod just lifted up my floor. Let's see. Stock tank coil went a little bit long because I can always come back and just short these together, pinch the coil together and solder it over a little bit, make it shorter if I need to. Clean this whole mess up. This is sure it worked, not my standard. So now I'm at the point now where I need to go to the bottom side of the box. This was relatively easy. The mess that I've got to clean up on the bottom side of the box is going to be a little bit more fun. So I get the bottom side of the box right. I've decided I am going to move the plate choke over to about here, which will cut a lot amount of inductor out of this thing. And it'll make it easier to get the tubes in and out. That's the main thing. So probably attach my bypass, this doorknob down here to the bottom. So yeah, we've reached kind of halfway. It's about halfway on it. So let's flip the thing over and let's take a look at the bottom real quick. Here's the bottom of things. Really isn't that bad. It's not the greatest. Our main thing is that we got to replace this shit coax. This has all got to go. How this is all hooked up. This is our glitch choke, and this whole mess, all of this mess has got to come out. It's got to come out. Absolutely, it's got to come out. So we're gonna clean this all up. I'll probably pull the relay out. Take a look at what's going on with the bottom side here. This is all burnt. Got to clean all this burn off, and then I got to set up. The main thing I do is I got to set up our input tuner. Okay, there's no inductor on this. It should come off this relay and go to a wire inductor, and then go over here. Now, that's fun to say, and I'm not afraid to admit this is my first 3-tuber I've ever done. I think I'll be fine as I work it out, because I will work this out. The main thing is that I've got to simulate the load. I've got 3 good tubes. Well, I've got 6 good tubes. But I'll get the bench tubes. I'll throw them in there, plus another one that I've got. We'll simulate this thing in operation, and we'll go find our input tune. But this shit has got to come out. This long braid back to ground is not what we want to do ever, in any situation. Even though it does work, it's not what we want to do. It's not optimal. So we'll pull out our old input coax, and I mean this thing is really quite burnt. There's been a hell of an explosion here at one point or another. So we're going to make the best of what we got. We're going to go off the fact that this is probably good. They've got a resistor knocking the 110 volts down, because this is a 12 volt DC. There's 105 volts DC, 125 volts DC that operates a stock relay, so we got to go look at that. And then I got to clean up all this mess. I got to put a grommet in here. That's an absolute must. You change how the RF comes through the deck. That's an absolute must. Make it safe. There's like 35,000 zip ties in this mess here. We're going to clean all this up, and I got to clean some of these connections up here up. A lot of this stuff is just hanging on by a prayer. So away we go. I'm literally moving right along here, and I pulled this coax out, and I thought, man, I got to show this to some people. This is a burn through. Let me move all these little hairs of wire out of the way. That's our burn through. And the whole bottom side of this cabinet over here is jet black from where this was arcing through. Just blowing through. And then we'll come over here to the other end, which is just as big of an abortion. Look at that, it's pinched. Okay, so we're going to go to manual focus, you piece of junk. We're going to manually focus this. Look at this. It's pinched. There's a hole there where it's shortened to the center conductor. Same thing here. Look at this. This is ridiculous. It's folded right through. Burnt. Garbage. That's why this had to come out. If I wouldn't have pulled this out and just left it in there, I would have never seen this. Ugh. There's underneath the coax connector. It's ridiculous. Okay. Send this back to auto. All this foam junk. This is junk. This coax is junk. Worthless. Just did an install tonight on my buddy's wife's Jeep. I did the whole thing with RG316 and RG400. 316 to the amp, RG400 out to the antenna. Perfect. I mean, 1.01 SWR with little tiny coax. I'm going to put RG400 all up in this thing because it's more than enough to carry what we're doing here. So let's take the relay out. Let's clean all the burn off of this thing. Let's start over. Okay, so a little bit's changed since we were all here last. The relay came out. All the score mark got scrubbed off the cabinet. There. All the score mark got scrubbed off the cabinet. I put in a grommet. I replaced our connection going through the deck, which this is the old connection. This coax just gets worse the longer I look at it. It really does. It's scary. We put brand new RG400 on the input side, brand new RG400 on the output side. Okay. It will put up with anything you can throw at it. It is flame proof, for God's sake. Cleaned all the contacts on the relay. This choke, junk. Obviously, junk. It's missing the tab. So created an input network, tied in our front tuner, and I had to get the face put back on this thing so I could get the tuner mounted. They didn't have the appropriate length shaft tuner, so they just have this bolted to the face, and there's supposed to be an underlining piece of supporting architecture underneath that. I went through and moved all these wires around. I made them all so they're nice and smooth and neat, made sure all the connections to where they go were actually soldered down well. Cleaned up this mess in the front as best I could. Zip tied and kept up all our wires here. The bottom side of this thing, I rebuilt it. And I'm sorry you guys didn't get to watch me do that. I'm not gonna lie, I turned on some Joe Rogan. I let myself mentally relax for a little while, and I just sat back and watched TV and worked. So, that being said, let's go look at the top side. So here we are on the top side. New tank coil, of course. I connected our new high voltage leads. moved our tank, our plates, or our plate choke to here, from over here on the wall, hooked up our bypass cap, installed our new blocker, and then tied in our new connection, which is here, that goes down to our relay. Everything is soldered, everything is tinned, everything is crimped, everything is as best as I know how to make it. All the high voltage wires are replaced, the meters are hooked up, the ones that work, which is our grid and high voltage. And I didn't hook up the grid because the grid hooks up down here and it doesn't matter. I think I'm ready to put tubes in this and turn it over, and let's see if we can get the input tune to lay down on this thing properly. That's what I'm doing next. I know it's time to quit when I shoot a whole segment and totally forget to turn my microphone on and don't catch it till I'm at the very end. So needless to say, this is well rehearsed. We've been over this several times. Okay, as you guys are very much aware of at this point, this is how I go about assessing the input tune of a box. Over here is infinite, over here is infinite, and the lower we go in the dip, the better the input signal is going to be. This little green cursor, as we can clearly see, is at 26.8 megahertz. The red cursor over here is at basically channel 41. Beautiful input tune. Let's move it along in resonance. There's 20, 18, 19, whatever. That's still totally acceptable. 1.2, channel 41. So, if the input network is any sign of what's to come, this coil got awfully short. The tank coil, the one I got in there, I might be rewrapping it. So, basically done underneath here. Let's stop this and unplug this. Now, let's flip this over. Let's go look at the top side. This is as far as I'm going to get tonight. The whole thing is put together. I can finish this tomorrow. Sit down, edit the video tomorrow, run this thing tomorrow. But that's it. Our three test tubes are in there now. I bet you anything our tank coil is going to end up being about that, maybe that big. So we'll have this much tank coil. Eliminate these two. But yay, ocean big, right here. I just have a feeling. Got all brand new parasitics put in there. This is what was in there before. There's a lot of inductance inside that, at the top part. So we'll see. We will see. I'm very interested to run this. Of course, we'll start out smart. We're going to disconnect the top of our tubes. We're going to make sure we got good filament voltage and good bias flop before we go any further. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to wait till tomorrow because it's 2 o'clock in the morning and I am done. I've been out here since about noon today. 13 hours in on this box. I really want to go take a mental break and do something else. So on that note, we'll see you guys tomorrow. All right, we're at the tail end of this thing. So we've added a bunch of inductor that wasn't there before. We've changed the whole circuit, so I've got to make sure the circuit's right. And you see me do this over and over and over and over again. So over here, we are looking at 27.50 through 26.50. Okay, that's the whole span across the band here. So now I'm going to reach in here. I'm going to add this part. Now I should probably do it like this. Let me reach in here. I couldn't stand it anymore working on that dirty surface, so I stripped everything down here on the workbench. Literally, like, stripped it down. Got rid of that other towel because it was so dirty. Oh, God, it was so dirty. Oh! This fancy tripod, and every time I move a cord or a cable or something around it, it gets snagged on the legs. Might need to modify that just a little bit. Okay. So we're going to solder you here. We're going to bring you here. But I want to bend you out of the way. So we got a little bit more insulative distance. So we don't end up having a flashover. Okay. Let me disconnect that for safety purposes. And we'll solder that. So right now we have got an SWR of 3 talking through the amp, which is deplorable. Solder that in place. Come back and add a little bit of more magic schmoo to it. Okay. So now we're going to go from an SWR, pardon me, 2. We're going to go for an SWR of 2 to, let's reshoot this, 1.2. And we'll widen out our span. So basically 0 through 52 megahertz is operationable as far as being able to hear through it. Which is okay, that's way wider than what my guy's going to use it for. Now, I've been over pretty much everything inside this thing to where I feel comfortable where I can power it up. Let's flip the box over. I'm going to disconnect the anodes. Well, let's flip it up on its side. We'll disconnect the anodes. And let's turn it on. I want to see what we got for bias flop on the filament side of things. So that's where we're going next. Okay, let's just bump this on. 1 transformer, low volts, high volts, just a hair over 3000. We got 3 lit tubes. Let's shut this down. Now we can't get in a hurry. This is where the time really starts getting sucked up. While we're watching this bleed off to 0 and we're waiting. I want to talk about something. A friend of mine, he was working on a project. He was working with 3,500 volts at 3 amps. He got in a hurry. He didn't ground. He didn't isolate. And he accidentally touched some stuff. And this is a guy that's got like 20 years worth of experience working with high voltage. He got in a hurry. And he told me on the phone, the last thing I remember seeing is the blue-white flash and the sound the flash was making as it was coming out of his arm. So it went in through his hand and it came out his arm. Now, he's a single man. As we're talking here, I'm preparing myself. I'm like pulling off my wedding ring. Because this is where the shit gets serious now. Because I'm a single man, and thank God I keep a phone with me all the time. Because when he did come to, he was able to come to long enough from his cat licking his face, and he was able to hit 911. Because then I don't remember nothing until I got in the ambulance, and then I don't remember anything until I got to the hospital. The doctors told him he should buy a lottery ticket. And I agree with the doctors. I think he should buy a lottery ticket because they said by some miracle he's alive. Now they're worried about the high voltage affecting his kidneys. Poor guy. Thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars worth of doctor bills, and still it's a miracle he's alive. And he should be grateful for being alive. Let's see, I need to have that on AC. You see how I'm not getting in any kind of rush to stick my hands inside of here at all? I might come across as super flamboyant on video, but I'm incredibly cautious. I'm incredibly cautious. I don't want to experience those kind of pain. I'm just not interested in experiencing that kind of pain. Okay, so we're here. And we're going to neutralize. We're going to leave it neutralized for a few minutes, just a couple seconds. Count of 10. What we're doing is we're guaranteeing that we're pulled down to 0. Yes, we have our bleeders. We have that circuit trying to protect us a little bit. That's really all your bleeders do, is help save your life, help neutralize the circuit. This is the stuff that I don't normally show. Okay, now we're completely neutralized. And we're disconnected from power. Now we can go on with the internal fingering of the fuckage. Okay. You gotta get stuck in that sequence. And it's like my friend said, he goes, man, I've been doing this for years and I've had a sequence of events, and he goes, I don't know why, BBI, I don't know. He goes, I got in a hurry and look at what it cost me. Yeah. The most valuable thing we all have is your life. Now, that being said, I will publicly admit that I have been dumb enough to leave my neutralization wire in there and turn something on and test it with it grounded out. And boy howdy does that make a hell of a mess. But I'd rather do that than be dead. Now I got to tell you, I'm a little nervous. This it's not the high voltage that I'm worried about. It's that I found that when you make the inductors this long, especially this one here, going back to that third tube, we might end up having to reshuffle everything in the deck and change the parasitics. I've had that cause all kinds of oscillation issues in the past. So we have to be careful of that. And we're gonna be mindful of that going forward. Okay. Let's bring in transformer number 2. Let's see what happens. Okay, so we're on the bottom side, and I just checked bias flop. We're good on that. We're good on light up on power up. So this is a 100 watt slug in 5X over here in the corner. There's no alterations to the tank coil yet, but I don't think I'm going to need it. So we're putting about 20 watts of power into it. That's on low. That's on high. So we're nearly making half a kilowatt with only 20 watts of drive. Bias flop is good. Our filament voltage is strong. Tubes aren't dimming. Everything's on track. Input SWR, which I was messing with. It'll. Stay focused on what you're doing here, Luke. I was messing with this tuner right here, plus the tuner on the front here. No, here. This one here. Your perspective. This one here. Okay. And this is what we got. So let's pan up here. And we're looking at this slug right here. All right. So our input tune is now perfect. I might put a smaller capacitor here. We'll see. I'll come back around to that here in a minute. I just want to verify that thing's working. Now we're going to flip it around, we're going to shorten the tank circuit, and we're going to do that with a pair of hemostats. So we're going to take a turn out of the tank, and we're going to see what it does for its power output. If it falls off, then we know the tank coil is too short. So I can take the hemostats out, which I'm pretty sure that's what our results are going to be. I might actually be a coil short, but I could be in the magical butter zone, so I'm not too big in a hurry. Now, the other thing that's really got me kind of concerned is the amount of heat and what's going on underneath here. Okay, I'm seeing several hundred degrees worth of heat, but that's coming off the center pin of the tube, right? The opening in the socket. The filament pins themselves are about 170 degrees. And that's that pin and that pin, okay? Because this muffin fan that's in here is orientated so it's blowing air out, these front two tubes are getting really hot. I mean, not hot enough to where I'm like, oh my God, we got a problem. It's literally, we need to flip the fan around. So we're pushing air in so we can get some kind of movement of air inside the cabinet. The way it's working now, it's drawing all the air in from the edges of the deck, from here. So it's dooming these $300 a piece tubes to death. The other thing that we have to consider is because we put this third socket in this spot, there's no airflow to the bottom side of the cabinet. None. This thing is going to become a solder dropping mofo. As in these pins eventually in a long QSO, that pin, that pin, that pin, that pin, this one and this one, our filament pins are going to get so hot they're going to unsolder themselves. So, looks like I'm going to Home Depot. Because if I don't set this up for this guy, he's never going to understand what I'm wanting him to do. We've got to put a muffin fan on the outside of the armor, pushing air in here, into this space, to get some air circulation around the pins. We can get away with not having to do that in the standard sb220 by dropping the fan down by one hole. And it moves enough, wafts enough butt farts of air through the bottom side of the cabinet to where the pins get a little bit of air movement. Well, with that third socket being in there and the fan being orientated the way it is, there's going to be L0 airflow to the bottom side of the deck, which he'll have this thing, he'll spend the money, he'll get the tubes put in this thing, he'll run it, it'll run for a week or two, the solder will fall out of the pins, the thing will arc over and it'll blow up and he'll freak out. Baby, it blew up already. Let's lay this thing down, let's continue playing with it. We're going to come back to this. Okay, it's going to look a little left up to you guys, but it is a hood rat tactic. Now I could go and I could emulate the load and simulate the resistance to the cabinet ground of the amplifier running and look at it on the grid dip meter. I did that already off camera. I know I'm pretty close with my tank coil as it sits. So we've got our hemostats and we've taken out one turn of our tank coil. So now we're going to go back over here to our watt meter. And we're back down on we're on our 2950. So as you can see that I've gone to 1,000 watt slug here on the far right hand side. Back this out just a little bit. I got our 5 watt slug in a far left hand hole there turned around so it's facing forward. Hello. Okay. Now we're going to go find our tune again. So now we're close to in resonance here. This is why this process takes so long. Now I'm having to dodge around the camera to get this done. So we'll pull our 1,000 watt out, put our 50 watt in, kind of hood rat tactic in it here without our grid dip meter. Okay, now we're over 50 watts. Now we're going to go to 150 watts by going up to the, or 100 watts by going up to the 2x scale. We're over 100 watts. 250 watts. Oh. 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 That's all we're going to get. So we're going to get 200 watts out of this thing. So let's take this back out. Go to our 1000 watt position. Now we shut the amp down. Now to help our cooling process here, I've gotten out the old trusty Ryobi just to help move some air underneath the box, but help keep everything in place where it needs to be up here in the top. So we're going to let our high voltage bleed down to 0, which is here. I don't know how these guys got through the day without understanding emulation of load. Still 40 something volts on the tubes. Let me zoom out a little bit. This is as far out as I can go, okay. Let's identify, we're down to 13 volts. Go ahead and crowbar this, hold it for a couple seconds. Now we can stick our hands in here, remove our hemostats. All right. So now, back on our stock tank coil length, we're just verifying resonant length on the tank coil. That's all we're doing here. Amps back on. Chill that out. Okay, so now we're off the left meter. We're off this one. Now we're going to start looking at this one. That's on low. Let's go up to high. We got our 500 watts back. Okay, so now run it for a couple minutes. Let's come in here with our FLIR and let's look around the deck. Of course, it's not going to focus. Our parasitics look okay. Our tank coil looks ice cold, and our connections on our tank coil look ice cold. So another little tip and trick is if the tank coil isn't in resonance, it'll start to heat tremendously. Tremendously. And the other thing is I found, be careful what I say here, there are guys out there that swear on their children's eyes that flat strap is the way to go. I found any sharp edge on a tank coil is bad. The RF wants to run to that sharp edge and it accumulates. And it'll ride that sharp edge. So you're trying to stuff a ton of RF down just 4 contact points on a flat strap. I'm not a big fan of flat strap unless the edges are rounded. Me personally, I like round. I know it's kind of a pain in the ass, especially when you go into bigger things like 3,000s, 6,000s, 10,000s, 15,000s, 20,000s, and 40,000s, and a pair of 15s and a pair of 20s. The flat strap's easier to work with, I understand that, but then they all darken for some reason. I'm running a 40,000 that can make 68,000 watts of power, and my tank coil isn't discolored at all. It's because it's round. I prefer round. There are guys out there that prefer flat. They both work. They got the pros and their cons on both sides, so I'm not getting on any particular bandwagon, and you're not going to hear me bitch about it. But 2. Hello, 1, 2. That's with 20 watts of drive. So, let's shut down our 2950. And let's start ramping it up in power and see what we get for output. What do you guys think? I am tired of screwing around. Let's jump on our 2950, put 80-90 watts in this thing. It's a nice mild 2950. It's not no derail hot rod that makes 2 billion watts, but waiting on you, D. That's on high, this is on low.
Hello, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Hello.
800 watts on low. Hello. That's with 80 watts of drive. We're making a full KAW. Just in case we missed it, let's go over that one more time. Hello, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. That's the amount of drive.
Hello. Hello.
That's on low. Here's on high.
Hello. Hello. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Hello.
Okay. So now we're going to go to our 490, which is about 120 something watts of drive, 150 watts worth of drive roughly. Let's see if we can push that needle a little bit further. Let's hook up our 490. Hello. Okay. This is our Striker SR 490 in line. Let's show you drive. Hello. Significantly more drive.
Hello. Bye-bye.
Okay. Interesting to me is that I'm so used to looking over. We're going to go to 2x, by the way. It's not full deflection. It's 2,000 watts. I'm so used to looking over at the voltmeter on the front of the sb220 and watch it drop a little bit. It's not even moving. Okay. So 1,900 watts of power. There's 2 grand. It's over 2 grand, probably 2,200. So we're going to go down to 5x. So now we're reading this middle scale here, adding a couple zeros. About 22 and some change with 180 watts of drive. Never even bothered to look up to see what my input tune is. Where are we at? Still half a watt. Okay. Now, because we have such shitty airflow inside the deck, I want to see how hot everything is. We're not too bad. 2 fronts are at 240. Back one's at, of course, the smaller anode cap's 230. I want to look over at everything inside the high volt board. Our glitch resistors and all that stuff are cool. Our bleeders are looking good. Tank circuit's still at 85 degrees. Okay, well, everything's working as it should. We got a little bit more, couple kilowatts we got to squeeze out of this thing, but for us to do that, we got to go up and drive. So let's put a 2-pill in line. Okay, so we're on a 1,000 watt slug. We're in peak. And we got the 2-pill hooked up. This is our drive now. About 300 watts. And this is where we're going to start getting our diminishing returns. More drive we're going to put in, the less amount we're going to see coming out. So let's go down to 5x. So back reading that middle scale again. 1, 2, 1, 2. There's 3,000. Okay. This is where we start getting a little nervous. So let's go back down to 1x. go ahead and turn our mic gain wide open on our radio. I'll put roughly 400 in it. I'll be surprised we get 3,500 to 4,000 out of it on high. But we'll see. We're going to find out together. And hopefully nothing explodes, because this is where it starts getting a little creepy to me. Fit the 3,000 watt wall. So it tells me either my tank coil is too short, because it definitely ain't from a lack of plate bolts. Check it out. Should be seeing 3,500 to almost 4,000 out of this. So this is when the tinkerer in me has got to take off and go play a little bit. Yep, let's build a different tank coil. See if we can squeak a little bit more out of it. Okay, so you guys know how I talk about the input tune on the tube. Well, you can do the same thing on the output network. And every time I explain this to somebody over the phone, I can literally see their eyes get crossed and they're like, I understand. Okay. Well, this is our current output network. We're looking at the output of the box now. We're looking at it in reverse. Okay. Right now, just because I chose 27.025, we have a 1.01. Not a tank coil. I tell you that here right now. It's perfect. The output network is perfect. Now how you achieve this is you have to get the data sheet. This is going to require a little bit of reading. All tubes that have ever been manufactured ever, they have a theoretical resistance to ground. Okay? And what I mean by that is you can go and you can look on the data sheets. Like if we go and we look at the 3500Z data sheet, it'll say resonant load impedance. So if you have a 1 tube, it's 5,000 ohms or 5K. If you have a 2 tuber, we're going to take that 5,000 ohms, we're going to divide it by 2. If you have a 3 tuber, you take that 5,000 ohms and you divide it by 3. Okay? That resistance goes infinitely lower the more tubes that you add to the circuit. So what we do is we take a simple resistor, we attach it to one of the anodes of the tubes, we attach it to the case of the ground, or case ground, and then we simply close the relay and put our network analyzer on and we take a look and we see what the output resonance is. Go look at the input resonance, you can look at the output resonance, so you know what the circuit's doing, you're not guessing. Now I let myself get in the land of guessing here just a minute ago. I really did. I was foolish. See, I've already done this once. That's why I had the resistors all set up. And by moving my tune and my load back and forth, fight for it. There you go, camera. We can move our resonant input load anywhere we want it. Move it over here. Move it over here. Or move it over here. Or move it over here. Or make it totally not even resonant. Or bring it back into resonance. Just like this. So we can walk that dip side to side. Now, we start to monoband it. See, look at how far I can dip that over. So now where are we at resonant dip wise? We're at channel, like 20 channels below 1. That's channel 60. 27.60. Okay. That's well within range. And if we sat here and we tweaked with it a little bit more, so about channel 60 is the top end of the resonance. So where I was playing with it was on channel 22. There's our 1.01. Pretty low. Not the tank coil. If I wasn't here to see this, I wouldn't have believed it. Okay, so... oh, this is so silly. Okay, so it dawned on me. I'm like, well, what can I do? I mean, I went and I looked at the input tune. It was good. I ran it. Remember, I was just hitting it with a 2-pill. I'm like, well... okay, so I grabbed my bench 4-pill and I put it in line. Now let's go over here. We're not going to touch anything on this because we've got it on setting on high. Good to go. Good to go. This is all maxed out. The numbers I'm seeing come out of this thing scare the crap out of me. Okay, so here we go. So first, we got our 1,000 watt slug and 1,000 watts. This one here, 1,000 in average, 5 watt slug in reverse, back from the dummy load. A very good question was asked me the other day. What is the point behind having the 5 watt slug in reverse? Because it doesn't matter what frequency we put into a dummy load, it's not going to show us any reflag. And my answer to that, actually I had a guy call and ask me that. My answer to that question is yes, you are 100% correct. You guys have to remember that my bench is a direct result of the naysayers. And what I mean by that is I came out when I was broke and a young lass, and well, I'm still broke, was rubbing 2 pennies together and working a, 150 hour a week job and still trying to do this on the side. They said, well, the reason your meters are showing as much as they are is because they're dozies. So I bought a bird meter. And then they said, well, he never shows it in average. So, okay, I bought another bird meter. Because I recognized as much as I touch these meters, put my hands upon them and touch them in each video, let's say, okay, let's show it to in peak. Now we're going to show it to an average. Why not have just another bird meter and show it to an average? Hence the reason we've got bird meter number 2. Well, as soon as I started showing that data, the next hole that they tried to punch in my story was, oh, well, we're going to use that 5 watt slug and we're going to say that, oh, is dummy load. His dummy load's got really high reflect. That's why we're seeing so many watts. So I went and got yet a 3rd bird meter with a 5 watt slug and show it in reverse so you guys can accurately gauge and see in each video that there's no reflect. So that means everything going forward is going forward. Now, just because we're going forward doesn't necessarily mean that it's on frequency. That's what we have this other tool for, the spectrum analyzer. Now, it's really hard to make a tube amplifier, especially after I've shown you the output emulated circuit. It's only resonant for about maybe 10-15 kcs wide, so it can't produce any 2nd or 3rd order harmonics. There's no point in even turning on the spectrum analyzer. I mean, it can, but it can't. It's not the amplifier's fault. It's going to be the radio. 99% of the time, it's the radio. Okay. So that's the reason we got the 5 watt slug in reverse. I have to remind people of that every once in a while, and I keep forgetting not every single one of you guys, all 10, 12,000, 13,000, 14,000 plus of you guys, you weren't with me from the very beginning, and nor are you going to go back, you're going to scroll back over a couple thousand videos back and go look at the first ones where I'm explaining, okay, I got to get another bird meter because the haters are saying that my watts are fake or ghost watts or harmonics or whatever. So now we've covered that again thoroughly. So I grabbed the bench 4-pill. We're going to hit the bench 4-pill with the 2950. Swing about 550 watts into the 3-tube Heath kit. We're going to go to 5X. And I'm sure this is going to get in the microphone. That's 3,800 watts Almost 4,000. It's almost 4,000 watts. I was like, damn. So I went and I double checked, and it cost everybody 15 minutes of their lives. Cost myself like 2 hours because I wasn't putting enough drive into it. I polished the input tune just a little bit more, and we're down to about 3 watts worth of reflect with 600 watts going in, which is absurd to me to put that much power into this amp. But it's doing it. So now we're going to go one step further. Let's go to the 490 hitting a 4-pill. So 125 watts worth of drive hitting a 4-pill, getting about 8 and some change, 9 and some change. Hell with it, let's drive it to the max. Let's see what it does. I'm kind of interested. I know you guys are kind of interested. We're all kind of interested. I would not suggest running it past maybe 300 or 400 watts of drive, but the end customer is going to do whatever the end customer is going to do. So, do not try this at home. Go back down to 1x. So we're just looking at our peak meter. We're going to hit it hard. We're going to put 1,000 watts of drive, almost 850 watts of drive in this thing, and max it out. I'm sure there's some old timer out there that says, oh, I can handle more than that. I don't want to try. I don't want to try. I'm 3 days wrapped up in this box. I don't feel like destroying it. No, your eyes didn't lie to you. That's almost 5,000 watts. That's 5,000 peak. Slamming it in the corner with 800, 900 watts of drive. It's the coax coming right out. That's the coax going in. Here's the coax coming out. Going to the bird meters. And no wonder why the plate ampere gauge was blown up. Gee, I can't imagine why. Okay, let's do it again. One, two, hello. We're beating the hell out of our average meter. So let's change that. We'll pull our 1,000 watt slug out. Replace it with a 5,000 watt slug. See what it does for average power. God, the tubes aren't even cherrying up. It's crazy. 1,300 average. 1,800 average, almost 2,000 average. And that's not even with the derail radio hitting it. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Hello, 1, 2. Hello, 1, 2. Hello, 1, 2 audio. And now the tubes are starting to come up. Here. Taking a long time to cool off too. No damn airflow. Like I said, it's possible, but it's not suggested. I know RF's going to get in the mic. I do apologize. There's nothing I can do about it. We'll come up off our operation. We are making heat, man. That's the hardest I ever want to drive these test bench tubes. Ever. Look at how long it's taken the tubes to recover. But it did it. I'm going to call this fixed. I'm going to call this done. Unreal. Unreal. Hello. Hello. 1, 2, hello, audio. Hello, audio. We'll say 4,800, 5,000, somewhere there. Well, I'm done with this. To my friend that is the owner of this thing, shucks, thanks for letting me work on this for you. Really do appreciate it. Now what I'm going to do after the video ends, which is going to be now, is I'm going to put PIM nut inserts in the lid, all the way around the lid. Make sure I got clearance on the top of the tubes from the lid, which we will. You put 3 good tubes in this and you hit this with 300-400 watts of drive, you'll get your mystical 4,000 watts. I represented and demonstrated here very adequately that this thing isn't cooled very well. So you're probably going to want to get some little stands for the amp to sit on, and then kind of attach a little muffin fan or attach a fan to the bottom to circulate some air across the bottom of those pins, or otherwise they're going to get hot and solder is going to drop. You're going to blow your tubes up and blow the box up. So I would really strongly suggest that. I'll throw in a 120 millimeter AC fan that will attach to the bottom of this thing. I've got one around here someplace. You can plug it into one outlet. It'll be really simple for you to attach. This thing works, and it works better than I ever thought it could have. This is not my bag of wax. This is not something I really want to get into and doing a whole bunch. Now I got to sit down and fill out my book of all my notes that I did here to make this work. I appreciate all the input. Jacket, love you, brother. 250, it was good talking to you, man. We'll see you here in a couple months. I'm going to let this thing cool off, and I'm going to get it ready to get out of here. I don't think I need to do another thing to it. I'm not going to touch it. I'm going to leave it alone. We're done. So on that note, gentlemen, 3-tube sb220, making almost 5,000 peak watts, a couple thousand bird. Gentlemen, I learn everything, learn something new, learn every single day. I appreciate your all's patience as I slowly work through all of these projects. I'm not currently taking on any new work at this time. I have got a mountain of stuff over here I need to deal with. And this is the end of the sb220 series now for at least a couple weeks. I've got an Eagle made box I need to go finish up with a pair of 800s in it. And a couple big Dave made amps that I want to go through. And then I've got a Henry that I need to finish. But first on deck after this is a little 2-pill for a guy that's been waiting for a long time. And then I got to jump on this Wizard bandwagon, and I'm going to start working on that in the background. We're going to take a 3CX 1500A7 and leave the power supply intact, but we're going to convert that over to run a 3CX 3000A7, low voltage. So we're going to utilize the bigger, cheaper, better built tube, but we're going to achieve the same amount of watts. I'll explain more in the videos to come. Gentlemen, I got to run. I got more porn to make. Now I'm going to sit down and do video editing the rest of the night. I appreciate every single one of you guys. Big shout out to Excess Power, big shout out to Siglant, shout out to Bird, Coaxial Dynamics, and of course, thank you, every single one of you guys. Call me and let me know if there's something I can do to help you, or if you got a question about anything that you think I might be able to give you the answer to. I'm always available. It might take me a little while to get back to you, but I always try to take care of every single person. I'll see you, gentlemen. I gotta go. Bump bump from the biggest duck in Idaho. I'll see you. Bye.